What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch. If you don't know, Jeff Goodman on the forums suggested a few changes to heroes Mei and Reaper. We reported on that a few days ago, but the conversation actually moved forward, making it seem like quite a few of these things are probably going to be a reality. And I wanted to take the time here to start to predict and look into the future of the upcoming competitive meta, which will have Brigitte and possibly even some of these new reworks added into the mix. Quick disclaimer first, though. Normally, we do like to have corresponding gameplay in the background, but this entire season I've just been playing tanks, and a lot of these heroes we're discussing are really niche anyway, and it'll be pretty difficult to be maining them here in Season 9, so forgive me for that. The gameplay you can treat as separate to this conversation. First things first, to update you about the specific changes that Jeff Goodman seemed to agree with, even though way back when Jeff did say that Reaper canceling his Wraith form would be incredibly powerful, he seems way more open to the idea here in this post. So that's definitely on the table, and as well some other things that were suggested were like speeding up his teleport time, making for flanks and repositions a lot more reliable, having a much smaller window where you're a free kill while you try to traverse around the map. These changes are incredibly concerning, but first I will let you know what the Mei changes might be as well. Uncle Jeff seemed to be intrigued by being able to freeze multiple targets at once as Mei, something that it seems like he even plugged into the game editor to try out. Now, as we discussed before, these suggested changes that they're kind of digging into are looking at these characters in particular because they're worried about an upcoming tank meta. Now, first, I want to break down why they even think that and why I actually disagree. A lot of people think that the new upcoming hero, Brigitte, is going to fit really well as like an off tank or maybe just playing around 3 and 4 tank. And although I think she wouldn't be a terrible selection to play that rushdown style of comp, I actually think you're far weaker to the counters that already counter multi and quad tank if you go with Brigitte instead of Moira. And if you somehow drop Lucio, I think you're in big trouble, because we've covered this in the past, right? If you look on how to counter quad tank videos, a few ways to go about doing it. First and foremost is avoid them rushing you at all costs, play at range, try to focus the backline, but really if you just farm up Riptire, you probably win anyway. And most of the success of quad tank comes from the incredible healing that Moira can do right now and how fast she charges her ultimate. I think those that assume that a Brigitte in that slot instead would be better are very ill-advised, because think of it like this. Any map where you've seen multi-tank work really well, Horizon is a great example. You're talking about a character that can heal for 0 in the transitional period between the points. The whole benefit of Moira is that she can throw a healing orb and outdo most of the poke damage that comes through as that big meatball rushes to the point. I think you're just dooming yourself to fail to have a healer that requires contact first before any healing gets done. It's gonna be a big mistake, and the Moira in that comp was already exploitable to Junkrat and good flanking play surrounding them, not even running a main tank yourself, running D.Va Hog. Overall, I'm just really confident that Brigitte is not a quad tank character. Perhaps triple tank, but definitely not quad tank. So with that being said, I'm a little concerned that they think that a multi-tank meta is going to progress, because so many ways of CC and range damage is so much better now. And perhaps even another important but small point, multi-tank back in the day was always strong, half due to Ana, but the other half was always due to Roadhog. And although I think Roadhog's a really strong character right now, he was stronger when his hook was on a 6-second cooldown and he did more damage rather than the 8-second cooldown and the brawly never die nature that he has now today. That few seconds of cooldown difference makes all the difference, as well as all the other changes they made to hook over the years of the game being out. If you didn't play the game back then, you might not know, but Roadhog's hook was so amazing that Tracer was unplayable, except if your name was Soon back in the day. Let's just put that to the side. Of course, I made videos about that, but the Roadhog hook being able to go through space and time on a 6-second cooldown made a character that everyone thinks is the best hero of all time not very playable back then. So all in all, I hope I built my case. Time to move on. I don't think multi-tank's even a problem that they should be addressing. And probably one step further, you could say, Ana is in such a flimsy spot right now for the percentage of players that have access to play her well. I think if you watch the video we made about Ana, I think some of those buffs could be considered without the fear of a tank apocalypse coming, because as good as multi-tank comps are when they're able to be run, I think one, the counters exist and the community has moved past being able to fall victim to those types of strategies a lot of the time. So we originally started talking about Mei and Reaper, and there's a bit of good and bad when we start talking about these characters, because overall, giving these small side grades or upgrades is a good idea, but some of the things that they're proposing here are not small side grades. I was excited when they slightly increased the freeze duration of Mei's blaster, better economy with her ammo works well, no longer getting anti-nated. I like all these little changes, but being able to freeze multiple targets at once, I don't know if the community is ready for the amount of frustration that that potentially could bring. I'm not necessarily against it, seeing as I play a lot of Winston. Part of aiming well with Winston is getting your aim to hit multiple targets at once. You sort of would have that effect with Mei as well, but 2 or 3 targets on the enemy team might start to get slowed. It could quickly be one of the best CCs in the game if it was able to do that, and you'll just have to let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. But the one that I'm even more concerned about is tweaking Reaper, because although speeding up his teleport or allowing him to cancel his shift would be incredibly good for Reaper players, the balance of the character of Reaper is on a really slippery slope. And at least right now, I'm pretty confident in the utility that he brings to the game, the power that he can achieve, especially for the amount of skill that's required to put in. I like playing Reaper. He's one of the easiest characters to get value out of, and you win a bit more so with outsmarting your opposition than with like raw Widowmaker aim, which is a lot more taxing to do. But it can be quite troublesome if a Reaper could dodge a McCree flash, then look at the McCree, read his animation on his reload, start to come out of Wraith form, get real close to him, and be able to one-clip him on command. I don't think people are ready for how incredibly powerful being able to come in and out of Wraith form at will would be. Now, as Jeff Goodman says, there'd be a bit of a delay to it, so you couldn't shoot immediately, but still, it would be incredibly strong to be able to pop out of that whenever you want, considering your guns get reloaded, so it's kind of like a high noon cancel in a way. The power of putting that timing into the player's hands will make Reaper a very strong contender. The thing is, like, I think Reaper is actually moving towards being stronger against dive meta than the proposed multi-tank meta that they're building these characters for, supposedly. Because in reality, Mei and Reaper are already pretty good against dive. We've even seen the both of them get paired in the Overwatch League in some niche comps to either counter Sombra or to split and divide, various types of comps. It's a really stable way to play if the enemy doesn't go like Pharmacy or Junkrat from range and really exploit your DPS limitation in that way. But a lot of maps you can't even choose to do that, like Control Center, for instance. Dallas Fuel pulled this out to take the map and eventually the round against NYXL yesterday. And speaking of anti-dive counters, we saw Jake pull out the Junkrat on Hanamura. Hasn't been done this entire stage, by the way. Don't know why. Everyone just runs up this hallway every single game, and it's a big battle for this hallway. I don't know why more teams don't just play more characters that are better at spamming or dueling or fighting in a hallway. You never see Roadhog, Junkrat, Reinhardt. I don't know. If the fight's gonna happen there, why not come with characters that can win that fight? And with that being the case, I want to make one larger point over the top of this. In general, I know everyone disagrees about how much balance changes do or don't happen. There's people who never want things changed no matter what. There's people who are always asking for the next thing to be swapped up, because obviously whatever is the best hero at the time is going to anger a whole new set of people, and there's a constant rotation of that. But I want to say, we've been seeing quite rapid meta changes that hasn't happened for a long time, and I'm at the point now where I don't want more meta changes because I don't think the pros or the community have really had enough time to fully dissect what's going on in the meta. Because if you've been watching Overwatch League from week 1 up until week 5 that we're on now, there's been a massive evolution to see a lot more success with characters like Hanzo, now Junkrat, Doomfist, McCree, characters that just weren't getting run for the first few weeks because all the pro teams were defaulting to dive meta, and there wasn't enough time really for teams to specialize into counter-stratting or really getting the most out of their players' specializations. And it takes about 5 weeks to even get a glimpse of that, and already now that Overwatch League is going to be going on to a new patch for Stage 3, that whole process is going to start over again. We need to slow down with this stuff because we're already talking about buffing Mei and Reaper. We haven't even started to play Brigitte yet. Things have been moving so so fast that I don't think anybody really knows what the top meta strategies are. Whether you're talking about matchmaking or the pro play, most players are just playing what they're most comfortable with, what they understand the win condition, and the only way to really burst through that stronghold of dogma is to pick something like Doomfist to punch a hole in it, right? And as soon as you got Doomfist or Junkrat or whatever, these other niche picks starting to really cause chaos and force teams to rethink things, that's how the meta really starts to evolve. But it's hard to even get footing in that if all of the teams are on shaky ground all the time with new changes coming in and out. So at least from my perspective, when we're starting to look at characters like Reaper and Mei, because they're in a healthy place in the meta where they're not dominating it, I tend to want to lean back and let them do their thing rather than try to reorganize them to be even better than they are. Because although Mei is a fairly high skill hero, I don't think we want Reaper to be the next Tracer. Because you got to think, a big reason why Tracer gets run so much at the top level of play is because she has the ability to dodge everything. No matter what abilities you want to use to try to shut her down, if she dodges perfectly, she's going to draw those resources out of you and still be living to tell the tale. We could very well turn Reaper into a Tracer-esque type mainstay, which as a Reaper player doesn't offend me, but I think overall it's a bad thing to start to put characters that take less skill to be more powerful than characters that take more skill. And that's the slippery slope that we're worried about here. I know I've thrown a lot of stuff at you in this discussion, guys, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. All in all, I want everybody to remember a few things about Brigitte. 1, she needs to be brawling. 2, her healing is quite low. And what do we know about characters that give a low amount of healing? What do they pair really well with? Are they good with big health pool tanks that take a lot of damage and need a lot of healing to get back up to full? Or is that small amount of reliable healing really good with squishy characters? When you think of Zenyatta's orb, would you rather have it on a tank or on a Tracer who's taking little bits of poke damage? I think we all know the answer to that. In conclusion, I think the Overwatch meta is incredibly healthy right now. I think it's difficult to name more than a handful of characters that aren't good enough to justify trying to use in the right situation. And it's an odd thing for me to say because usually I am advocating for a lot more changes, but I think now I would like a little bit of stability, a little bit of time to dig into where the meta is going to settle, especially with Brigitte being added. Because as I've said in previous videos, I do think she's a game changer. However, it does entirely require your team to play in a different way. Just about in the same way if you're playing in a single healer setup with a Sim or a Torb, you just kind of assume that you can't take as much damage. If you do that with Brigitte as well and catch engagements properly and then brawl, you kind of are in like a massively good position from that point forward. And I think Brigitte is very good. Me and Weagle kind of disagree about that a little bit, but only time will tell with this stuff, and I think we just need some time. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like these meta discussion videos, be sure to leave them a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day, so you're going to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.